In my last video, I discussed the most notable things I found in the Japanese version of Chapter 1. Now it's time for Chapter 2. I was going to go in chronological order like in Part 1, but actually, let's just cut to the good stuff first. I know why you really clicked on this video. I'm going to start out with a controversial statement.
Japanese Spamton is better than English Spamton.
They not only localized him, they improved upon him and turned the crazy factor up to 11. I mean, just look at this text. It's hard to know where to begin. I suppose I'll start by listing the various properties of his text and going through them one at a time. Number 1. Half-width katakana. It's exactly what it sounds like. Katakana characters, but just squished a bit. These were created in the early days of computers to display Japanese characters on computers designed for the Latin alphabet. These days, they can be found in internet slang, certain niche computer applications, and in corrupted text that's in the wrong encoding, which is probably the vibe they were going for here. Number 2. Goro awase. This is the process of replacing syllables with numbers that are pronounced similarly. It's a lot like Leet speak, but more versatile. If we look at the pronoun Spamton uses, it's watakushi, with the wata part in half-width katakana and the kushi part as numbers. 9 in Japanese is kyu, which sounds similar to ku, and 4 is pronounced shi, thus watakushi. Number 3. Sporadic spacing. For example, right here he adds a space before the last character of the word for no reason. Here's a few more examples. Number 4. Misspelling. In katakana, so and n look very similar, and there are multiple occasions where Spamton swaps one for the other. Very subtle, but noticeable. It's kind of like swapping lowercase l and uppercase I. He also frequently replaces the hiragana shi with the katakana re, like in urayamashi and subarashi. Here, he replaces the mi in kimi with the kanji for 3. There's also this line as Spamton Neo where he replaces i with the letter e. Number 5. Poor grammar. Here, he doesn't conjugate correctly and uses ni narumasu ka when it should ni narimasu ka. And here he similarly uses arumasu instead of arimasu, and chigaumasu instead of chigaimasu. Number 6. Missing characters. He just straight up omits characters sometimes, leaving a blank space where it should be. For example, right here there should be a su, and right here there should be a te. Number 7. Puns. Wild prizes is translated to gouka shouhin, meaning hellish prizes, which is a pun on gouka shouhin, meaning extravagant prizes. Here he replaces the dai in daisuki with the English word dai. And similarly here he replaces des with the English death. 8. Unconverted text. To type in Japanese, you use what's called an IME, which lets you type in romaji and the text gets automatically converted to hiragana as you type. And you can then convert it into katakana or kanji. Throughout Spamton's text, there are bits of unconverted romaji sprinkled in, like this. Although the English text contains some of these features, most of them aren't utilized to quite the same extent. All of these factors contribute to giving Spamton a very creepy and glitchy vibe that I feel goes further than the original text. Next, there's someone else in this chapter with a peculiar speaking style. In English, Queen's speaking style isn't all that special in my opinion. It's mainly just a lack of punctuation and capitalizing nearly every word. In Japanese, her speaking has several more robotic quirks. Everything is wrapped inside an HTML-style comment, as indicated here, and she uses brackets in a somewhat similar manner to Spamton. All of her non-bracketed text uses katakana instead of hiragana, which is a common trope of robotic speech in Japanese. She also uses this cute waving emoticon when she says bye. The text in Queen's portraits were localized too. LMAO was replaced with www because that's a common way to show laughter in Japanese, since W is a shortening of wara, meaning laughter. Let's talk about the egg's husband scene. Puns are rarely translatable across languages, so obviously they had to change these lines quite a bit to work in Japanese. The first 2 lines are the same, and then we get the first pun from Sans. Yeah, that kind of thing happens sometimes. Here the word for sometimes is tamatama, which sounds similar to the Japanese word for egg, tamago. Then Toriel responds, That is true. You cannot help it sometimes. This time using tamaniwa for sometimes. If it was every day, that'd be brutal. Here Sans uses egui, but modifies the G into a double consonant to emphasize the egg pun. Egui. Yes, and it would be your fault too, would it not? Here Toriel is making a pun on kimi, meaning you, and kimi, meaning egg yolk. Gotta be a little forgetful or there's no appeal. Sans uses omoshiromi, meaning interest or appeal, and emphasizes the shiromi part, which can also mean egg white. In that respect, I'm worth teasing, aren't I? The word used here is karakai, but the pun is with the kara part, which can mean shell. Finally, we have Asgore, who says, even your ex-husband is quite appealing. The word kekko is being used as a pun on kokekko, which is the Japanese equivalent of kakadoodle-doo, the sound of a rooster. And then he uses the same pun on omoshiromi that Sans used a moment ago. If you're wondering if all this is still funny in context, here's a clip of Shiranui Flare from Hololive reacting to it.
あ、トリエル。忘れ物？ええ、卵をカウンターに置いて帰っちゃったみたいで。まあ、たまたまそんなこともあるんじゃないか、卵だけに。でもさ、言っていいか？入れ忘れたのお前だよな。トリエルじゃないだろこれ。コンビニでしょ？セルフじゃないですよね。そうね、たまには仕方がないかも。毎日だったらえっぐいけどな。そうね、そうなったらちょっと気味が悪いわね。誰かこの二人を止めて。ちょっと忘れっぽいぐらいじゃないと面白みがない。その点私はからかいがいがあるでしょ。ああ君の元旦那だって結構面白みがあるぞ。お帰りいただいてもよろしいでしょうか。急に。
A lot of people were curious about Rouxls Card's pirate impression. He starts off with a pirate laugh going "Yo ho ho." Then landlubbers is replaced with "Oka pirates domo." Oka means land, then pirates, and then domo is used as a derogatory pluralizing suffix, followed by yo, which in this context is a vocative particle like o in older English. So this line goes "Yo ho ho, O land pirates. Nanjizu o Davy Jones no moto e iza okoran." He once again uses nanjizu to refer to Chris and Rouxls like I discussed in my last video. Then instead of Davy Jones' locker, it's simplified more generally to just Davy Jones' location or Davy Jones' side. And then the okurang at the end is an older way of saying okuru daro. So this line means something like, I'll be sending thous to Davy Jones. Now let's go through some of the smaller details. For starters, a bunch of names were localized. Dragon Blazers is changed to Dragon Blader, and it gets shortened to Dorabure in conversation, which is close to Dorakue, the shortened version of Dragon Quest. Shadow crystals are now called Shadow Gems. Minecraft becomes Minekushatto, which is mine plus kushatto, an onomatopoeia crushing sound. The boss Silver Drake from Dragon Blazers becomes Silver Worm. If I had to guess, it's probably because Drake isn't a well-known word in Japanese. Werewire becomes Cableroido or Cableroid, a mix of cable and android. Wire becomes Cableroido. Now my favorite one. Viro-Viro-kun becomes Wilson, which sounds like Wilson. They switched it from a Japanese sounding name to a Western one to preserve the foreignness of it, and still kept the virus pun since virus is Uirusu. Bravo to whoever came up with that one. Ambulance becomes Q9, which is pronounced QQ, a pun on QQ meaning emergency aid. Trashy becomes Kuzu, which is just trash with an extended vowel at the end. He also has a speech quirk where he ends all his sentences with z. Swatch becomes Pareta, which is the word for palette, pareto, but with the last vowel changed. And last but certainly not least, Nubert becomes Poin, short for pointer, since Nubert is based on the red ThinkPad nub. And he ends all his sentences with an N sound. We also have various localized graphics. In the Agree to All puzzle, the solution is now Yes 2-0. which upon completion the queen remarks that it means yes ni maru, meaning circle yes. The other puzzle, featuring Icy's catchphrase, was also localized and uses the same translation used in the word search in Undertale. Spamton's attacks that include text are also localized, as is Queen's online chatter attack, and her tendergoodbye.exe graphic at the end. I didn't mention this in the last video, but Icy's pizza also gets a localized name and graphic, as you can see here. Icy is now Burudoku, which is the pun on Burudogu, or bulldog, and also a combination of Buruburu and Doku, which are onomatopoeia sounds for shaking and thumping, respectively. When we first meet Birdly, he goes on about how he wants to create a Smartopia, and then he calls him and Noelle the Light Nerds, because that's what Queen called them. This pun was localized to this, which is just Raitona, but transliterated in kanji, like this. Rai, to, na, a. Writing stuff in kanji phonetically like this is sometimes done for the sake of looking cool, and I guess Queen thought it was a funny way to make fun of Birdly's ego. Wacky stacks becomes gennama, an old slang term for hard stacks of cash. Crisscross applesauce becomes kurisu risu 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 risu, which doesn't really mean anything. She's just playing around with the sound of Chris's name. When encountering Queen at the mansion entrance, she threatens Noelle with an if-then statement like is seen in programming. The way this was handled was by still using the if-then words, but translating what they mean in parentheses. This is a rather unusual compromise, but I guess there's not really a perfect solution for this. The tutorial bit is changed to tutorial kissing the piano, because in Japanese, tutorial is tutoriaru, and tu can mean kiss, so it's a pun on piano tutoriaru. Lancer frees this by overloading the computer with a massive order of shovels, which the game refers to as a dozens and dozens of shovels attack, with the joke being that this is a reference to a DDoS attack. This was localized to a dondon okuru shaberu attack, or continuously sending shovels attack. In Susie's room, there's a vacuum cleaner mixed with a book, where the search query was Susie saying the library sucks. In Japanese, they changed the joke to be that she says, Baka baka, kono toshonka gomi bakka, which means stupid stupid, this library is full of nothing but garbage. So the vacuum still makes sense. During the shadow puzzle, Birdly references wave dashing while accusing us of cheating. There's a few different terms for wave dashing in Japanese. The long version is Chouzetsu teiku kuchu kinkyu kaihi, which means superior low altitude mid-air emergency maneuver. This is pretty cumbersome to say, so it's often shortened to Zekku or just Zetsu. In this case, they use the full name. I think they did that for two reasons. One is because it ensures the reference is unambiguous, since a lot of people might not understand the reference if they just used Zetsu. And also because, of course, Birdly would use the full term to sound smart. The spelling bee cutscene was still kept as an English spelling contest, which is still sometimes a thing in Japan, but some of the words were substituted with simpler, more common words that Japanese people are more likely to know. For example, prodigy is replaced with wise. If we talk to the hacker in Queen's Mansion, he tells us he's undercover and to keep it on the download, as a pun on down low. This pun was changed to keep it a secret, which is referencing the C# programming language. They probably specified C# because if they just wrote C, then the reference might not have been as obvious, even though C is also a programming language. Holy Kangadero was unfortunately removed rather than given a translation. Total Jackass Stunts was replaced with Anpontan Zanmai. Anpontan is a slang insult meaning stupid or foolish, and Zanmai means intense focus or indulgence. So it basically means an indulgence in foolishness, but less formal sounding than that. Hochi Mama was replaced with Ojo-chan, which doesn't sound as funny, but frankly, I'm not sure what they could have used instead. There are a few terms that might technically work, but I think they would be either too inappropriate or weird for this context, especially since it's referring to Noelle. At the end of the Giga Queen fight, she says she has something we'll never have, but in Japanese this line is more like, something you can't get your hands on, with the word hand in brackets. The next line was then changed from detachable hands to rocket punch. For obvious reasons, the Snoozy and Snoriel joke was altered in the translation. The original conversation goes, do you know what they call a sleeping Susie? Huh? What? They would call her a snoozy. Haha, then I guess you'd be, Snoriel? Hahaha, Snoriel, Snoozy and Snoriel. You really liked that one, huh? Wasn't it funny? The Japanese goes, that reminds me, I've been thinking about something a while. Huh? Susie must go, Sue, when having a good sleep. Haha, then doesn't your name sound like something you drink when you can't sleep? Side note, I'm not sure if this line is referencing a specific product or not. If anyone knows some kind of medicine or drink that sounds close to Torieru, let me know. Now that you mention it, yeah. I guess that makes us the fastest sleep duo. Hahaha. You really liked that one, huh? Wasn't it funny? That about covers everything in Chapter 2. Thank you all so much for the overwhelming support on the first video. I was not expecting more than like a couple thousand views at most. And thank you for helping me reach over 1.5k subscribers already. That's crazy. I'm excited to get to Chapters 3 and 4 next. I still haven't played them in Japanese yet, so it will be interesting to see how they handled certain things. In any case, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye bye.